Good evening, my Real News Media TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update. And in the news this evening, NPTAJ president says gangs are recruiting students via social media. President of the National Parent Teachers Association of Jamaica, Stuart Jacobs, says social media platforms have provided sophisticated means for criminal networks to recruit children. Mr. Jacobs says this has prompted a need for parents to be trained to identify signs and deal with gang recruitment, similar to the approach taken with smoking and alcohol consumption. His comment comes against the backdrop of concerns about increased violence in schools. The Kingston Western Police last week revealed a worrying trend of gang violence in communities, also spilling over in high schools within the division. Mr. Jacobs says there needs to be a paradigm shift in light of the variables at play.
There was a time when the gangs would have to come to your gate to speak to your child. They're no longer doing that. They're WhatsApping them. They're sending them a message on the phone. So they are being recruited virally. So when they behave like that in school, the gangs sometimes have that influence of reaching them. So the curriculum needs to be the channel towards reconciliation. But how do you speak to somebody other than a parent that you have been recruited in a gang? And how does the parent deal with it? And therefore, there needs to be a holistic approach where parents are now re-engaged of how to handle these signs. Sometimes when they are being recruited by the gangs, there's no sign of it. It is when they come into the school, it manifests. I would like for us to consider what is being preached. I've said it so many times that the new wave of preaching has taken on a different shift. And I'm speaking about the non-traditional church, the new wave of churches. We find that what they're preaching is prosperity gospel. Prosperity, how to get rich, how to stay rich. There's no longer that emphasis on forgiveness, understanding of human needs, the brotherly love, the sisterly love, the compassion.
Police constable freed of charges stemming from 2021 civilian shooting. A police constable was freed on Monday in the Halfway Tree Parish Court after a no-case submission by his attorneys Peter Champagny KC and Samoy Campbell was upheld. Kemar Hutchinson, 35, was charged with unlawful wounding and making a false declaration contrary to Section 33 of the Indicom Act. The charges stemmed from an incident that took place on February 28, 2021 in the Love Lane Charles Street area in Kingston. Hutchinson, who was in the company of another policeman, was traveling in a service vehicle when he saw Chad Stewart walking and acting suspiciously, reports said. It is reported that Stewart continuously disobeyed Hutchinson's commands to stop and then attempted to flee. In his statement to the Independent Commission of Investigations, Hutchinson said that Stewart had pulled a firearm from his waist and pointed it in his direction, prompting him to fire in self-defense. The prosecution relied on CCTV footage capturing part of the altercation as evidence against Hutchinson. At the trial, however, his attorneys during a no-case submission argued that critical aspects of the incident were not fully captured in the video presented to the court. There was also evidence that Stewart himself was charged with the offenses of illegal possession of a firearm and assault after a gun was recovered from him during the incident. At the time of the incident, there was reportedly also a warrant out for the arrest of Stewart. Vybz Kartel retrial hearing continues on day 2. The Court of Appeal hearing to decide if Vybz Kartel and the 3 other men should be retried for murder continued Tuesday morning with a submission from defense attorney John Clark. Kartel, whose given name is Adisha Palmer, Sean Storm Campbell, Kahira Jones, and Andre St. John, were convicted in March 2014 for the murder of Clive Lizard Williams and sentenced to life in prison a month later. But on March 14 this year, 10 years later, the UK-based Privy Council overturned the convictions on the grounds of juror misconduct and sent the matter back to Jamaica's Court of Appeal for it to decide whether the murder case should be retried. At Tuesday's hearing in the Court of Appeal, Mr. Clark raised the issue of delay as one factor the court will have to look at in deciding if a retrial will be in the interest of justice. He pointed out that this appeal has so far taken 10 years, But when he said that the Privy Council delivered its ruling only 1 month after it finished hearing the matter, he upset the presiding judge Marva MacDonald Bishop, who suggested that the reference to the Privy Council was unfair. She said there had been multiple issues raised when this case came before the Court of Appeal, which all had to be dealt with. On the other hand, the Privy Council, she said, decided to focus on only one narrow issue, the matter of juror misconduct. Even so, it was pointed out that the Privy Council had the matter for 3 years and the appellants had to apply for an expedited hearing. The judge also said people need to understand that the local Court of Appeal has ordered retrials before based on juror misconduct. She said the local courts do not have a microphone to respond to public opinion. 60-year-old man dies from gunshot wounded to the head in Fraser's content. A 60-year-old man has become the latest victim of gun violence in the crime-prone Fraser's content community of St. Catherine. He has been identified as Michael Stedman, unemployed of Fraser's Boulevard, Spanish Town, St. Catherine. It is reported that about 6 p.m. Monday, explosions were heard in the community and residents summoned the police. On their arrival, Stedman was observed on the side of the road with what appeared to be gunshot wounds to the head. He was assisted to the Spanish Town Hospital, where he succumbed to his injuries. Stedman's death followed that of Sheldon Reed, who was shot and killed in the community on Sunday. The Spanish Town Criminal Investigations Branch is probing the matter. Normality returns to most areas after Monday's transport strike. Normality has returned to most areas of the transport sector following Monday's withdrawal of services by some operators over penalties under the Road Traffic Act, which have been described as unreasonable. The news received one report of disruption in St. Catherine, where operators on the Spanish Town to Bayside route continued the protest in front of the Spanish Town police station. Monday's action affected hundreds of commuters in at least 7 parishes. Groups representing bus and taxi operators are now meeting with the Transport Operators Steering Committee to discuss the grouses. The meeting started at 9 a.m. at the Transport Authority's head office. Transport Minister Darrell Vaz is hopeful that the transport operators will allow dialogue to take place without a further disruption.
The reports I received this morning, Tuesday, in relation to the transportation withdrawal, which started yesterday, is that based on reports from the police, from ACP Mackenzie, from the regional offices of the Transport Authority, that normality seems to be returning. Buses are out, all different types and shapes and routes, and the roadblocks themselves, which were cleared yesterday, have not been remounted. So I'm hoping that this trend will continue throughout the morning.
Superintendent Hopton Nicholson, head of the St. Catherine North Police, addressed the minibus operators in St. Catherine who complained that they were being unfairly targeted. Superintendent Nicholson urged them to challenge their traffic tickets in court if they believe them to be unfair.
I want to know that when the police stop you for a particular offense or what they suspect to be an offense, if they observe other offenses, it is legal for them to prosecute you. They can exercise discretion, but I just want you to understand, I don't want you to believe that it is legal. So sometimes when you end up getting 3 or 4 tickets, it is because you have breached. I realize that you are not challenging, most of you saying that you are not challenging the tickets in court. Even when you believe that you are right, I think you should rethink. No, I think you should rethink it.
Dion Chance, president of the St. James Taxi Association, has joined the transport minister in appealing to operators to hold off on their protest action. Mr. Chance said some headway was made at a meeting held earlier this month, and he expects that the Tuesday session will also be fruitful.
As long as there's dialogue, ongoing dialogue on the matter, and if things are going in a positive way, I don't see any reason to strike. If the negotiations are going in a negative direction, then, but you have to give it a chance to see what comes of it. And if there's nothing positive coming, then by all means, a seatbelt ticket is something that people will get. No qualms about that. But there are a lot of little nuances with it. For instance, if a taxi driver is operating and a passenger comes in the vehicle, in the front of the vehicle, and he asks them to put the seatbelt on and they don't comply and the police stops the driver is the one that gets the ticket. And we have to deal with the reality. A lot of the communities where the taxis operate are volatile areas, and I can't speak of St. James. And if you dare go into an area to operate, and individually, it doesn't matter who, right? And they refuse to wear the seatbelt, you ask them to leave the vehicle, two things can happen. You can't go back to operate there, or you go back and them kill you.
Thank you everyone for watching. See you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. for another news update.